I'm John Batchelor. Mary Kissel of the Wall Street Journal editorial board is here, and the Wall Street Journal editorial page devoted much attention to the T-Mobile AT&T story. Justice Department issuing a statement saying that if this deal goes through, and it's seeking to block it, it would reduce competition, raise prices, and retard innovation. Mary, Justice is saying monopoly. It must step in and use the anti-monopoly powers at Justice. 100 years ago, they used these against the Standard Oil, John D. Rockefeller. There was also attention to Ma Bell once upon a time when it broke up Ma Bell. Is there a consistent record of Justice moving against monopoly and it benefiting the American consumer, as the Justice is making the argument this would benefit the American consumer?
They're consistently wrong. What Justice is saying is that arbitrarily, here in America, we need 4 big wireless companies. And so they don't want the second and the fourth carriers to merge with each other. And they have really fancy models that tell them that they're right. But everything that you've just alleged, that it's going to raise prices for us, reduce choice, all those things, the record tells us that actually, as the market consolidates, you get the opposite effect.
Correct.
Consumers.
And with Standard Oil, the facts are these. John D. Rockefeller did buy up all of the producing wells he could get a hold of, and also the communications, the transportation point. And what did that lead to? It meant that he was often the only buyer of those wells. They didn't have any other value.
Right.
And he eventually created a system that reduced the price of oil and made it attractive for competition to enter in.
Right.
Hence, the world of oil grew and the world of energy grew because of his presumed monopolistic practices. We could repeat this with General Motors, and we could repeat this with Ma Bell. It's worked every time for the last century. So here we are, Justice, in the 21st century, following through. Can we at this point say that the breakup of this deal will leave T-Mobile stronger or weaker?
Well, the great irony with this deal is that Justice says, oh, we really need T-Mobile because they're a very strong competitor. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
I use T-Mobile. No, they're
not.
No.
No, they have been bleeding customers, and their home parent company of Deutsche Telekom in Bonn, Germany, wants out of the U.S. market. They want to sell because
they're
not...
Take our wireless, please.
Please.
Yes, yes.
And so Justice isn't saying that T-Mobile can't be sold. They're just saying you can't sell it to AT&T.
I want to guess that Justice is well informed of the wireless world, but you, in the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, indicate that there is another story here that's not being addressed, which is the world of the spectrum. What is the spectrum, Mary?
The spectrum is the part of the airwaves that allows you to receive all of those voice calls and most importantly, all that data that's streaming into your smartphone and your BlackBerry and other devices. And the real problem here, and this is why AT&T wanted to do the deal, is that they need more spectrum so that they can give you the content that you want. So again, this is another great irony of this announcement this week. If Justice really doesn't want prices to go up, well, you know what? Companies are going to have to start rationing out the spectrum because they won't have enough of it.
And raising prices in order to limit the demand by customers.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly,
of course.
exactly.
Now, T-Mobile is number 4, and Verizon's 1, AT&T's 2, T-Mobile's 4, Sprint's 3. Sprint as the weak partner and T-Mobile as the weak partner. Justice would seem cynically to be driving T-Mobile into the arms of Sprint. There's no other possibility.
Different technology.
Unless Tata Motors wants to show up. I don't know. We'd welcome that, too. If Tata, you want a wireless, you can have it. The Germans are ready to deal. But Justice is imagining a world of, again, I just want to jump into this. They worry about the pie and cutting it up in a fair fashion. They don't understand that the pie grows.
Well, and again, may I say irony number 3 is you had a digital satellite TV provider, the Dish Network, file a waiver at the FCC last week asking to use parts of their radio spectrum for terrestrial use. So you have all sorts of operators who want to come in here. You have satellite operators. You have cable operators. You have. It's not as if these 4 wireless companies are the only ones out there who can serve us.
And they are the carriers. They no longer dominate as they did when we all had wired phones. And I puzzle about the Justice's language here. Can they prove that this reduces competition and raises prices? Can they assert it? Because the only price increases I've seen in these last years, I had a BlackBerry, I use the iPad, I'm on the wireless now with my Mac. The prices increases are when they give you a new service, something access that's either faster or bigger.
Right.
It's not apples and apples anymore. The speeds are so vast, and the ability to access video is so fast. That's what the price raises are all
and
about.
remember, you also have smaller competitors that are pay to use, or you have regional carriers, and these may look small in comparison to the 52 million Sprint customers, but you have things like Cellular South, who have several million customers, Leap Wireless, Metro PCS. There are a lot of players in this space, and they would get bigger if we gave them more spectrum to play with and to compete and to innovate on.
So I just wonder if this was a Justice Department dealing with what you'd have to say rear view mirror legal arguments dating from a time in which antitrust had a significance in the American political conversation. And I want to push you, Mary. Should we sunset antitrust? Has this outgrown its use because it's being abused by justice?
Well, I think in the telecommunications space, it certainly hasn't served us well. You see how it's grown out of control in places like the European Union, where they've gone after Microsoft. Right. They're doing the same thing here in the United States.
Yeah, they use
Google.
it as a regulation stick.
That's absolutely right. I guess in its best theoretical form, it would be there to allow entry of competition. But we still have that in the telecommunications space.
Pricing is always going to allow competition to get underneath. What happened to Microsoft? It was going to own the world, right? You couldn't get on a computer without Microsoft. What happened? Does justice pay attention to that? Microsoft has said, well, I didn't want to use the word joke. Let's put it this way. It's a soft company. It doesn't frighten anybody.
No, but it still maintains a decent competitive role in the marketplace.
Of course, it takes a piece of the action, but it doesn't dictate the marketplace.
No, but this is another point. If T-Mobile went away, you're not talking about leaving puny little companies behind. You still have Sprint, 52 million, Verizon, 106 million subscribers. These are not tiny companies. They can hold their own.
I mention also, Justice, since I'm not sure that your iPhone consumers, as your children are, T-Mobile doesn't have access to the iPhone. It's the chief reason not to have it as a carrier until and if it solves that, and the AT&T deal would have solved it.
John, you're so yesterday. Don't you have an Android?
Yeah, no, I do not have an Android.
Okay,
I'm all Mac all the time. I belong to the cult. Everybody knows that. Mary Kissel, the very tolerant Mary Kissel, talking about some rival company called Android. I only pay attention to my Apple. I'm John Batchelor.